first recording since leaving San Remo or New Haven and coming under the bridge to San Remo and heading out. I'm now at Refuge Bay, beautiful Refuge Bay on Wilson's Promontory, and Wilson's Promontory is the southernmost tip of Victoria, and I probably look a bit dishevelled and everything today. That's because I had probably one of the toughest sails I've had for a long time, sailing out around Cape Woolamai, which is just out of San Remo. Well, first off I had to get out of the marina, and then I had to go, so you have to time that at about half tide, and it was very, very shallow, but I got out because I needed the low tide to get under the bridge. So then I waited a little bit, but I could see the mark on the bridge and see that we had enough room, I hoped. So I took off and set sail and went under the bridge, and I recorded a little bit going under the bridge on the GoPro, and it was really scary. Well, here it is, the moment of truth. Oh, fuck. We did it! But after all that elation, after getting through, I then got on the other side, and it was a southwesterly wind which was blowing straight up the channel, and those short steep waves, and still against the current, and it was really rough, and pushing into that wind was quite a deal. So then I went over towards the anchorage behind Cape Woolamai. Finally got up a headsail. I thought I'd just go out on the headsail at first, and then I got up the main a bit later. But as I went out around Cape Woolamai, these amazing seas came in, and I don't think I've experienced seas quite like it. It was about a 2 metre swell, but these seas were very short, and the swell was very short, and it was on the beam. Okay, we're just leaving Cape Woolamai off to starboard, and as you can see, it's a big swell here, and it's blowing I'd say about 20-25 southwesterly, which is a bit more than they predicted, and right behind us there in the distance is San Remo, where we came out, and we had a fun time coming out of there too. So unfortunately I can't film much because I was too busy doing things, and so we're on the hydrovane now, and we're on course for our first waypoint of Cape Patterson, I think it's called, about 40 miles away. That's the Bass Coast over there, which is a beautiful coast, but the surf would be roaring over there at the moment. And over on my starboard side, I don't want to look because of this big wave like that one. But over on the starboard side you can see the state of the sea, so I hope it settles down a bit as we get out. But little Cachalot went well, and we got out a bit further, and but it eased down, but not till really we'd got well away from the Cape. It obviously is a very tricky area. So then I was right out into Bass Strait, and Bass Strait lived up to its reputation as being a pretty difficult area of water. So I took off heading for Cape I've forgotten the name now, but I'll obviously put it in underneath what the actual name is. I forgot, I've gone out of head because I'm so tired, and yet it's the day after, so and yet I'm still tired. A lot of bushflies around here. So anyway, I then headed down towards the Cape, and the southwesterlies were blowing in at about 20 knots, and so I decided to reduce down to just the headsail, just to the jib, and little Cachalot just purred along on a sort of beam to broad reach. It was pretty slow, probably only doing about 4 knots, but I didn't care. I had to make it as comfortable as possible for me, because I wasn't feeling the greatest. Not that I get seasick, but but because I'm on a lot of tablets at the moment because of this infection in my good old thumb, and I just felt a bit off, and I hadn't eaten. So I'd had half a sandwich, I think, but that was about it. So we continued on, and just on the Hetzel at about 4 knots, and had a pretty slow trip right down. But through the night it was very uncomfortable, and I was trying to cat nap, which I did with using the alarm on my phone. I didn't really get much sleep at all, but I was able to just go off to sleep for a few minutes at a time, which sort of kept me going. At least it didn't rain, that was the only thing. But every so often these rogue waves come in, and you can hear them coming, and just like a bit of a freight train, and some of the seas I experienced in the Indian Ocean, but not as big. Anyway, the waves would come rolling in, bang, and then you'd cop some spray. But because of this dodger, I was well protected, and I didn't get wet, which was a relief. So I went through the night, saw Lip Trap is the name of that Cape Lip Trap. I knew it had come back to me. So I got past Cape Lip Trap, and actually at Cape Lip Trap there's a lighthouse, so it's very easy to follow your path. I have the GPS anyway, and chart plotter, and I also have paper charts. But I was able to use the light, and as I got off Cape Lip Trap, I saw these lights in the distance, and it looked like a ship, but it was going very, very slowly, and it was off to my starboard side, and but it was lit up like a Christmas tree, and it was really hard to see the navigation lights at all. But finally it was well clear of me, and finally it disappeared heading north, and we went off into the night, but otherwise I didn't see anything else at all. Then daylight came as I started to enter the channel to come down the inside of the western side of Wilson's Promontory. There's a group of islands called the Glenny Islands, and you can go between the Glenny Islands and the mainland. So that's what I did, and I took some footage on the GoPro of the dawn. It was a really eerie sort of dawn, but it was great to see daylight again, and it's always tough at night, and particularly in rough weather. But it was great to have daylight again, and then I weaved my way down through the islands, and then rounded Wilson's Promontory. Sun came out, and it was amazing. We were able to. I didn't even worry about putting the main up again. The wind hadn't reduced significantly, probably down to about 15, I think, or 10 maybe, and I didn't bother about putting the main up. I was too exhausted to worry about that, because we were just gliding along, and there was certainly no hurry. So as I came around, I then headed north on the eastern side of Wilson's Promontory, and it's about 9 miles from the actual tip, from the lighthouse, which is another thing, is a magnificent lighthouse and buildings, and on the most magnificent peninsula with all these coloured rocks. Nearly to Refuge Cove. Have a look at these rock formations. Just up ahead, a couple little bays, and then Refuge Cove. It looked like they're painted, and I thought at some stage that somebody had done some graffiti, but I don't think so. I think it was my being a little delusional because of lack of sleep. Anyway, so, and it was great because I was able to hold the sail. The wind might have even shifted a little bit south, and I was able to just sail along without using the motor at all, until I got right up to the entrance to Refuge Cove, and so dropped the sail, motored in, and then anchored. There are about 6 or 8 knot yachts, and it's a really tight little anchorage, but I managed to get right up in the southern end, which is the most protected end of Refuge Cove, and I anchored in about 4.5, 5 metres, which is very shallow, but that's all you need. And so I dropped the anchor, set it, and I was so exhausted. Did I have anything to eat then? Yes, I had the remaining half of one of the sandwiches I'd kept, and that was about it. And I just needed to get to sleep, and so I went off to sleep. I was probably anchored pretty close to other yachts, but that's the way it is in here. They say you've got to even sometimes put your fenders out, or even put a stern anchor out to keep you away from other yachts, because at this time of the year it can get very, very crowded. But it's not now, thank goodness. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4 of us left. Yes, there's only 4 of us left. So it's really pleasant, and I've got plenty of room at the moment. Although the boat ahead of me is a bit close, but he's not going anywhere and I'm not going anywhere. So yesterday I then went to bed as soon as I could, and I had the most fitful sleep, and that often happens to me after really stressful, exhausting times, that I tend to have a few stressful sort of nightmares. So it wasn't very restful at all, and I spent all day really just trying to recuperate, and even then I wasn't very rested. So finally I went to sleep at about 9 o'clock and had a really good sleep overnight, and today I feel 100% better. You get pretty down, I think, well I do, after a trip like that, and you start to think, gee, what am I doing to myself? But then you wake up this morning in a beautiful place like this on an absolutely glorious day, and I was able to have a coffee, cook some breakfast, some scrambled eggs, and which I've only just finished, and now I can just sit and relax. Got a few little chores to do, but otherwise nothing happened on the trip to the boat of any significance, and so I'm just going to rest. And now I've got to try and wait for a forecast. That's the only problem here, having no phone contact, unless I can go ashore and climb up Telecom Hill, which I may be not doing, because it means I have to blow up the inflatable, which is quite a big job, and put the outboard on and all that sort of thing. So I'm relying on waiting for the Vic Radio broadcasts on Channel 16, and they broadcast, there's a strong wind warning at the moment for the western side of Wilson's Promontory, the Central Coast, and I'm certainly not going out when there's strong wind warning forecast. And even if the winds were okay for me to head to Deal Island, I wouldn't have been able to today. I just needed a day of rest. So then I've got to try and wait for the forecast, and there was a prediction before I left that it might swing southeasterly, which is not for me. Whether I wanted to go to Deal Island or onto Lake's Entrance as the alternative, it wouldn't be good for either of those. So I'll wait and see, try and get an updated forecast, and even if I've got to wait a couple of days, I've got to wait a couple of days. But once I know what the weather's doing, and I want ideal weather, I'm not going if it's not ideal. And then I'm going to head off to Deal Island, and then on to Flinders Island, and then on to the rest of Tasmania, if the weather gods let me. Good morning. Day 3, yes, day 3 at Refuge Cove. Tuesday arrived, virtually slept the afternoon and then slept all night. Yesterday relaxed, felt a lot better. Nice day yesterday, just getting everything sorted out and relaxing. And then I waited for the weather forecast, which was at 18:48 precisely on Marine Radio Victoria, which is of course 6:48. And the forecast wasn't good. It was for a strong wind warning on the other side of Wilson's Prom, and on this side strong winds as well. But the forecast for today was for easterly, southeasterly, which are the worst winds for me to go anywhere really, to go to Deal Island or to go across to Paynesville. The winds are just not right, and again it looks like again tomorrow and Saturday, but we can only live in hope, and I'll just wait for the forecast again tonight at 18:48, and we'll find out what's happening with weather in the next few days. Maybe by Sunday, I'm definitely not going out into southeasterly winds. Maybe by Sunday, if we get a bit of a swing to south, I could go to Paynesville, not Paynesville, Lake's Entrance. But if not, it'll probably have to wait for the southwesterly, which I think is forecast for Sunday or Monday, and if long providing it's not too strong, but if it is if it is sort of within reasonable range, if it's not a strong wind warning, I can hug the coast and go up to Lake's entrance, which might be the option at this stage. Oh, and by the way, you can see this little thing I've got on me. This is the little Sonic Cake microphone, and I have one on the camera and also this little one here, and we'll just see if it makes much of a difference. It certainly does. It did when I've used it before, when I've done talks and things like that, but we'll see if it makes a difference compared to yesterday. Here's outside, and it looks like a beautiful day, doesn't it? Well, it is. It's a gorgeous day. It's lovely and sunny. Not much wind in here, just the occasional gust, but you probably can't pick it up on the camera. But out there, I'll zoom in, out there is the entrance. And if you just watch for a little bit, you might see a couple of waves. There was one just crashing onto the rocks. But when that boat went out this morning, I watched him go out, and wow, were they pitching as they went out, burying their nose under and lifting right out of the water. So you can see it's pretty rough there, and it wouldn't be too pleasant. And one of the guys who left yesterday, he told me that that's one of the problems here. He said with the southeasterly, that you get stuck and you can't get out. I finally figured out the aperture problem on this and why it was all terrible. So I better show you Refuge Cove again, because I don't think the other videos were too good. So here we are. This is the cove. I'll zoom it out. And there's the beach. And of course, it is a national park. And the signs say that over there. A few people around today. Some people over on the beach and on the rocks. And the winds. You can feel the wind out here now.